Hello again. In this video I am going to demonstrate how simple it is to create a recipe database, add data to the database, and retrieve data from the database. So let's get started. First place we want to start is in the system parameter dialog and under the recipe database tab. And we want to add a new recipe database, and I'm going to call this one settings. And the next thing we need to do is create the table for the database. So we want to add a new record, and this first item I'm going to call name. And we want this to be ASCII data, length of 10, display length of 10, or width, I'm sorry. We want to add a new record, and I'm going to call this one number, and that needs to be 16-bit unsigned. Now this size is number of registers, and of course we're doing 16-bit registers. No decimal point on this one. And we'll call this one, let's say, temperature. And let's go ahead and make this 32-bit float. And we'll do one more, and we'll call this one speed. We'll do 16-bit unsigned. And okay, so now our database is created. We've given each item a name. We define the data type and the display characteristics, implied decimal point and whatnot. So now we just say click OK. Now we need a way to view our records. So we'll go over to the Object tab, and we want to select a recipe view. Now of course we only have one recipe set up in our database. So I'm going to select our settings recipe. And we want to sort them by name. Now, since that is alphanumeric, they will be sorted using that method. And we're going to go ahead and do ascending. Then we've got some other settings here for style and so on and so forth. And we want our caption to say settings. Select OK. Now we need a way to enter data into our recipe. So let's go ahead and add some fields, add some objects to enter this in. So our first field is name, so we want an ASCII input object. We want to allow input. We're going to select recipe, and then of course name from that, and a length of 10 words. And then of course we want an object to be able to manipulate our next field, which is number. And our next field is temperature. And our final field would be speed. So now we need to create some objects to execute our commands. Right now we're going to worry about the commands needed to edit our recipe database. So here you can see is a list of the commands. If we write a 1 to the command register, it will add a new record. If we write a 2, it will update the selected recipe record. If we write a 3, it will delete the selected recipe record. And if we write a 4, it will delete all records. So let's go ahead and add a word set. And we want to write to a recipe, settings, and command. We want to write a value of 1 to add a new record. We'll go ahead and add a label here. And we'll do another one. And we will write a constant value of 2 to update the selected. And we'll do another one. And we will write a value of 3 to delete selected. And last but not least, write a value of 4 to delete all. Now we need a way to get the data from the recipe record out into the real world, out into somewhere we can use it. The preferred method for this would be a data transfer, and we want to use a per page data transfer with a touch trigger. And we want to write from our recipe, and our starting register would be name. So let's add up the number of registers. We've got a 16-bit register for name. We've got another 10 registers for number. We've got 2 more for temp and 1 for speed. So that should be a total of 14. And our starting register would be 0. Now let's go ahead and make some objects to view the data. Or a set of destination registers for the data. So let's go ahead and run a simulation. So here you see we have no records. Now, one more thing we want to do before we continue any further is we want to go ahead and add some data into our project. We'll embed it into the first download. So we want to go ahead and go to our project tab and records of recipe database. And this will go ahead and allow us to add some data in. So I'm going to go ahead and make a record here. Name. We'll call it setup 0. And we'll leave that as number 0, and we'll put in a temp. Let's say 230.50. 5. And speed, we'll say 110.3. And we'll just say OK. And yes, we want to save this to the computer record. So when I save that, now this will even allow me to use this in simulation mode. So let's go ahead and do a simulation. So here you see now I have my record, and this is the only one and the one selected, so this data shows up here. So you can see I can manipulate this data, call this setup 1, call it record 1. Just make some adjustments here. And I can add a new record. And you can see it added it in here. With the data move, I can load whatever selected, whichever one is selected, to my destination registers. I can delete the current record. Put a little confirmation request in there. Or I could delete all of them. And it's as simple as that. Now, if you did this project, this simple example I did right here in real time, it literally would have taken 7 to 8 minutes at most. That's allowing time for little goofs here and there. Very, very simple. The simplest application of recipe database that I've seen in the industry. Thanks for watching, and be sure to come back and see more of our instructional videos.